In 2022, our subscribers made it possible for us to add new cars to the Gears and Gasoline fleet and continue developing the ones we've already been working on. And while we did say goodbye to one of them, 2023 promises even more new projects and ongoing builds than last year. Let's take stock.
The K-Swapped RX-7 is one of my favorite cars. I mean, just look at this thing. It's amazing. But unfortunately, I haven't had much spare time to invest into making it more refined. We had to rush to do the initial K-Swap in order to take it on our 48-state road trip, and the car performed flawlessly. Well, for the most part. After the road trip, I bought another RX-7 for the shell to swap the interior from. This made the car much more enjoyable to drive, and it was my daily driver for a few months until I got distracted with another Subaru. That said, I've got big plans for refining the FD. It's still a project car, and a big goal is to make it cosmetically cleaner. The fiberglass widebody kit is a bit crude, and the engine bay paint doesn't match the vinyl wrap. I eventually want to strip it down for a full paint job inside and out. First though, I'm going to work on making the FD more drivable by upgrading the transmission and rear differential. So expect some videos on that very soon.
This year I purchased my very first Honda, and boy, what a Honda to own. Jackie Ding sold me his seasoned Time Attack S2000, the car that propelled him into the racing spotlight before the Supra was even in production. But the car I bought was literally a shell of its former self. No engine, transmission, interior, it's gonna be a project. The whole point of buying a Honda was to experience the extremely popular K-Series engine platform that seems to be going into everything these days. I initially purchased a humble little K20 A3 from a Civic Si, but was quickly convinced to upgrade instead to a K20 A2 block and Z3 head, and had it built to rev to 10,000 RPM with some ITBs. That motor went together just over a month ago, and soon it'll be powering Jackie's old S2000, not to make big power and win races again, but simply to provide prime motoring pleasure the way an S2000 should.
My Ford Escort was my very first car. I got it in 2008, and it introduced me to the car scene. The Escort's brittle nature taught me all the fundamentals of mechanics, and I also learned how to do a lot of modifications thanks to how cheap the parts are. I spent a lot of time with this car in high school and into college a little bit. Working on it is actually how Ben and I first met when he came by to help me sand the body for paint. Unfortunately, over the last few years, the car has just been sitting in storage. It's difficult for me to figure out what I want to do with it. I've thought about turning it into a car that I could do some more performance driving with, but it's too sentimental of a car for me to risk wrecking it. So I may just swap the interior back into it and revert it back to its original form like it was for me in college, and just keep it around as a good memory. This is the only car that I promised myself I would never sell. I can't promise myself that with other cars because then I know I'd end up with way too many cars. I probably need to sell a few of my cars as it is, but I'm not selling this one. For now, it's just gonna collect some more dust. My Honda Civic, on the other hand, is much different. It's my most refined car, believe it or not. We've spent years with this thing, turning it into the best track weapon it can be for competition. We won the 2021 Club TR Grid Life Championship, and we got several podiums with it last year as well. We're looking to make some big changes in the near future to make this car even more refined. Currently, it's sitting in storage. But next season is approaching quickly, and I'm going to need to get this car back in the garage soon to start fabricating. This hot hatch is well past the point of just bolting parts on. We're getting into the real engineering stuff now, improving the suspension geometry, the center of gravity, and maybe a little bit of tweaking to the powertrain. Expect some more content on this car soon as we transform it into its next evolution.
My second year with the world's worst 3rd gen MR2 was even more eventful than the first. After stripping off all the improvements from the previous owner and setting the car up for the racetrack, we promptly blew it up. I was literally thrilled to see the motor go, because the next logical step for YouTube content was to swap the gutless little 1ZZ engine for something a little more clickable. For example, a Toyota Camry engine? I guess so. The 2.5-liter 2AR FXE engine from a Toyota Camry hybrid was exactly what the MR2 needed. With the help of engine swap guru Mark from Frankenstein Motorworks, the MR2 now makes 230 wheel horsepower and 206 foot-pounds of torque. That's over double what it dynoed on the 1.8-liter stock motor and was 8 seconds faster at my home track. But all that horsepower came at a price, and that price is my personal safety. The car is now a total nightmare on the limit, so the plans for 2023 will be to refine the setup on the MR2 and make it easier to drive fast.
This car is my daily driver, and it's the perfect street car in my opinion. Yes, it's had its moments as an unreliable Subaru, but ever since we installed the IAG Magnum block, it's been bulletproof. We took it from Florida to Alaska, and that was an awesome experience. Since then, I haven't really had to make too much content with it because there really hasn't been much left to do. The powertrain is perfect, I wouldn't have it any other way. But no car is ever really done, is it? I'd love to put some more carbon on this car and figure out a way to make it lighter without sacrificing any of its quality. I'd also like to change out the brakes for those larger 6-pot OEM calipers. The aftermarket world of Subaru seems to be endless, and I want to continue exploring it. So expect to see some improvements on the STI throughout 2023.
Next, we have the best car ever, my Honda Fit. Last year, I installed some wheels, tires, and suspension to make the Fit look cool and handle better. After the build was over, I took the new wheels off for the winter and threw the stock wheels back on, and it has continued to be my daily driver ever since. Now that I've done mods to the Fit, it's time to finally take it to the track. This coming year, I plan on going to VIR to show the Benz who's really the best on track by setting a blistering sub 3-minute lap at VIR, cementing myself as the true gears and gasoline Stig.
This car was an impulse purchase. I honestly probably shouldn't have bought it. It was so rough I was able to buy it for a pretty good deal, but I've since fixed it up both cosmetically and mechanically. It's my most powerful vehicle at around 670 wheel horsepower, which is honestly a bit excessive. It also seems redundant with my STI. Both cars are 4-door, all-wheel drive sedans making similar power with built engines. I'll make a comparison video between these two once I finish all the cosmetic mods that I want to do with the Evo. I didn't want to compare these two adversaries until I had gotten them to a point where I feel like it's a fair contest. Now that we're nearly there, you can expect to see a video on that soon, as well as a few more mods on the Evo. But I'll be honest with you, you've made it this far in the video, so I'll let you in on a secret. I'm most likely gonna sell the Evo. I can't really afford to keep it, and it doesn't make sense to keep both the Evo and the STI. Unless somebody offered me a deal that I couldn't refuse on the STI, I'm probably gonna sell the Evo.
But on the subject of Evos that aren't being sold, 2022 saw the fastest iteration of the Evo so far, with a turbo swap, suspension redesign, and a livery for maximum intimidation factor. This was all for the goal of dominating grid life street class, which the Evo was able to do convincingly. And it drove to Alaska and back, but that was just a bonus. Unfortunately, it was also quite brittle, and this caused it to break multiple times over the course of the season, first shredding another 6-speed transmission and then imploding the turbo at its final event at Lime Rock. Because of the demands of the MR2 and S2000, the Evo has remained inoperable since then, but soon it will be getting a glow-up of its own. I have a whole video slated just to explain my plans for the Evo in 2023, so I won't spoil that here, but look for a dedicated Lana update coming very soon.
The Ford F-150 and Toyota Tundra. Not our most exciting vehicles for sure, but they're absolute workhorses. These two units are getting a little beat up and higher mileage, but they're probably our most functional vehicles, because they're the most stock. We use these trucks to tow our non-functional vehicles all across the country. I think we both average about 40,000 miles a year on these trucks, and both trucks have been dead reliable. We don't plan on changing any of that by modifying them, so these puppies are staying stock.
And that's not all. We have more cars planned to purchase for 2023 and actually already have one we're building that we just can't reveal yet. All I'll say is it really breaks the mold of cars we've owned thus far. What would you like to see from the channel this year? Not just cars, but races, challenges, or road trips? Let us know in the comments below, and Happy New Year!